The 6 different varieties of purple pole beans that we are trialing this year are Purple King, that has shiny 5 to 6 inch purple pods, Blauhilde, which is an heirloom from Germany, Purple Potted, which is also, that's the one right here, which is also an heirloom, and interestingly it was found in the 1930s in an Ozark garden and has been saved and maintained and is still available today. There's also Red Noodle, which is back here, and the interesting thing about the Red Noodle is that although there are no beans on that plant at this time, they are more burgundy in color than purple, and they get up to 4 bean pods per cluster and up to 16 to 20 inches long. Caramint gets 8 to 9 inch pods, and the violet potted stringless get 6 to 7 inch long pods, and they are slightly flattened in nature. My name is Lisa Glover. I'm a University of Minnesota Extension Master Gardener of Dakota County. I'm here in our community garden in South St. Paul, and I'd like to show you the purple pole beans that we are trialing this year, as well as give you some general information on growing pole beans in your garden. Now, as the name implies, and as you can see, pole beans will literally grow up and along a pole. They are vining plants. This is opposed to another type of bean that we often grow in our home gardens called bush beans, which get about 1.5 to 2 feet tall and maintain a bushy habit. These pole beans will grow 7 to 9 feet tall, or even taller depending on the variety. So they definitely need a trellis system of some kind to grow on for their vines to produce. The trellises that we are using here this year are these wooden trellises with these wooden crossbars, but we have added some twine growing vertically for the vines to grow on. The trellises should definitely be placed in the garden before you seed the seeds into the soil, so that the trellises are ready for the plants to grow on. You can really use any type of trellis system in your garden for your pole beans. You could use purchased mesh fencing, string with poles. You could even use sturdy sticks or bamboo poles put into a teepee type fashion, and then plant 3 or 4 pole bean seeds around the base of each pole for them to vine on. I've even seen pole beans growing up corn stalks in gardens. Now that's a really unique way to save space in a garden. The interesting thing about pole beans is that they can be grown in a small space garden. It makes them very useful for that. And it also is useful in harvesting, because it makes the beans easier to reach, and it cuts down on the bending and stooping that you usually would have to do when you're harvesting beans from the bush type beans. Now, beans grow best in full sun with ample, adequate moisture, about 1 inch of water a week. In fact, if the soil dries out when the plants are flowering, it could tend to make the pods more fibrous and also tend to cut down on the yields. So you'll definitely want to make sure there is water available. And if you aren't receiving enough water by rainfall and you need to hand water, be sure to water at the base of the plant so as to keep the foliage as dry as possible, and that cuts down on diseases. Now, you can directly sow your pole bean seeds into the garden soil when the soil is at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit in temperature. If you plant the bean seeds in the garden soil when the soil is less or cooler than 60 degrees, you may have poor germination. Either the seeds won't germinate at all, or they may take a really long time to germinate, and in that time that they're sitting in the soil, they could rot. So you definitely want to wait until the soil is at least 60 degrees or warmer for good germination. Then, as I said, keeping the foliage dry is important to cut down on diseases, and having your trellis in place at the time of planting is also important. Then about harvesting, you'll want to harvest often, and harvesting often, like every 2 or 3 days, depending on the variety, will help the vines to set more pods, and it will also prolong the production season. Pole beans are known for being highly productive and producing long beans, as well as being very beautiful plants in the garden. As you can see, these are purple pole beans, but the purple vines and the beautiful bicolored purple flowers are really an attractive plant in the garden. So even without the harvesting of the purple beans or the pole beans, it's a really pretty plant in the garden. And also in harvesting, it's really according to your taste, but you would like to harvest the beans when they are easy to snap and before the bean seeds inside the pod become bulged. And the length of the bean, again, it depends on, according to the different varieties, but you may want to harvest them when they're shorter or longer depending on your tastes. Now, the Minnesota State Seed Trial Committee has chosen for us the 6 different varieties of pole beans that we are trialing this year. We will be testing for germination rate, how productive each bean variety is. We'll be testing their flavor, both raw and cooked. We'll be testing the texture of the cooked beans. We'll be monitoring them for their any disease or insect issues, as well as the length of average length of a typical pod of each variety. Now we planted these beans in the soil on May 21st, and 7 days later, two of the varieties of the purple pole beans had some germination. That was the red potted variety and the Blauhide, Blauhilde, excuse me, I pronounced that incorrectly. But by 13 days, on June 3rd, all of the varieties had germinated. Now I'd like to show you, you've already seen some of the beans, but I'm going to crawl around down into there to the Caramint variety. And as you can see, there are several purple beans in a cluster here. This is what you can expect, but again, it varies according to the variety. You can see the pretty purple blossom here, and then the long purple beans. Now, when these are purple, but when you cook them, the beans don't stay this color. They fade to a deep green color, but they are equally delicious. So they're just, again, beautiful plants, and the trellis system makes them easy to get around, to pick, and they're just great plants in the garden. I'm just going to come back around here. Now, purple pole beans are very nutritious. They are high in vitamins A, C, and K. They're also high in folic acid and, of course, fiber. You can use them in salads, fresh for munching. You can pickle them or use them in soups or steam them. They're equally nutritious in all of those ways. What makes them their purple color is an antioxidant in the beans called anthocyanin, and that is another nutritional benefit of these pole beans. So I hope you'll try these pole beans in your garden for